Hi lovers of literature, good evening to one and all who is right now tuned to my channel. During the weekends we especially come up with a poem as well as a detailed explanation and analysis of it. Along with that, a short bio sketch of the poet. So we have already gone through two famous poets in Between the Lines in my channel. We have already done Patriot by Mr. Browning, and we have also done Bangle Sellers by Mrs. Nigel. So today we are going to do an in-depth analysis of one of the most loved American poetess, that is none other than Maya Angelou. She is also famous by the name of Black Woman's Poet Laureate. So Maya Angelou, she herself, of course, was a marginalist in America. In the era where black people were suppressed in their thought process, in their actions, in their freedom, in whatever way you say, she had the courage to hone her skills to speak up for one and all who were suppressed, who were dominated by the majority. So today in this poem of ours, that is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, that is the title of the poem. Now we have to understand this title is of course hinting at Maya Angelou's personal touch. She tells us, I know why the caged bird sings. Now this I is of course a subjective viewpoint of hers. But this is also an allusion. Now what's an allusion? Allusion is referring to some other work of literature or any other history. It can be Greek allusion, it can be Roman allusion. But today, especially in this poem, she has referred to Paul Laurence Dunbar's Sympathy. The poem that she has imbibed from or taken from or copied from. The first line is from Paul Laurence Dunbar's Sympathy. Now if you see into that poem, the first line of that poem is, I know what the caged bird feels, alas. Now Maya Angelou's poem says, I know why the caged bird sings. And his is, I know what the caged bird feels, alas. So this caged bird thing, what is this caged bird? Who is this caged bird? Is of course to be questioned. And as I said, she has always talked for the suppressed. And of course, she being a black American woman, you understand the kind of struggles she had to go through. Her journey of 1,000 miles was not easy, my dear friends. She had to take a single step every day to reach there. But she, a woman of indomitable courage, never ever had let down on her spirit. And so, her poems are reflections of the society and the times she lived in. Now outwardly if we see the poem, I know why the caged bird sings, or caged bird as it is often interchangeably known, can be seen as a reflection on social disparity and the ideals of freedom as well as justice. She was always fighting for it. Freedom and of course the right to speak, the right to voice. Being an artist, of course it is not at all advisable for any artist to be suppressed. To be suppressed in a thought process, to be suppressed in her actions, in a way of voicing her thoughts. And she never did that. She never compromised on that factor. She was an out and out feminist out there to protest whatever wrong was done to her people, and of course for everyone who had no voice to speak. Maya Angelou was a savior. because her poems are so relevant. Now, Angelou, with the metaphor of birds, here comes two kind of birds. One is caged bird, another is free bird, represents the inequality of justice seen in the society of her time, which differentiates between the Afro-American community and its white American counterpart. So it's a kind of complete contradiction in terms of power mechanism. Through a poem, she also illustrates the nature of both freedom and captivity by creating a stark contrast between the two birds as the metaphor. So the poem is of course a metaphor. I know why the caged bird sings, of course, talks about all people who are chained by society, by the people who does play the role of power politics on the people who are suppressed. So this is the metaphor that the poem exercises and brings out the kind of contradiction that the free people and the bonded people had to go through. The poem, now let us come into the structure form of the poem. I hope the background is pretty clear. Let me once more summarize. Maya Angelou, as we know, or if we just do a little research on her life, we'll come to know, she has always been a voice for the black woman. She has been known as the black woman poet laureate. So she here uses the caged bird as a metaphor for the people who are suffering, who are suppressed by the power mechanism of the people who employed or exercised their power on them. So this is the background, and of course, as I've mentioned, the title, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, talks about her subjective viewpoint because she knows how it feels like, because she has been a part of the journey. She doesn't speak from a third person's perspective. And it is also a reference to Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem, the first line of the poem, Sympathy. So this is what the background more or less talks about. Now the poem, if we just do a clear survey into the poem, please have the poem right in front of you, as I always say. The poem is divided into 6 stanzas, describing the state of 2 birds, where one is free and floats and dares to claim the sky. Why? Because the sky feels to be his. It feels as if the sky, the city, the landscape is not for the people who are suffering, who are subjugated. While the other bird, that is the caged bird, is in the bars of rage. Now this is a metaphor, bars of rage. So you understand how the contrast is employed? One is free to claim the sky and another is caged. And he just have the bars. And as if the bars are angry, as if he is angry, of course he is angry. Who likes to be bonded? Aren't we understanding the state during this quarantine days? Of course, because we are not free to move. But here we all are facing that. But Maya Angelou, you have to remember, she being a black American woman was of course not allowed. Whereas she could see some people could do that. When does this anguish for freedom comes? When you are bonded. You want to break free, so there will be always this angst, this anguish that I want to break free, but I am not allowed to. Why? Because not for any reason other than the color. So this poem, as I said, is divided into 6 stanzas. My dear friends, let me tell you one thing before I proceed. that I will be talking a little more today because this is one of my very, very personal favorite poems. So please, if I blabber too much or I go out of the topic, please excuse me. So the poem is divided into 6 stanzas, describing the state of 2 birds, as I've already told. The first and third stanza shows the delight of the free bird experiencing freedom, whereas the rest of the stanzas concentrate on the plight of the caged bird. Wants to break free, the pathetic condition. Angelou puts greater emphasis on the lamentable state of the caged bird and contrasts this with that of the free bird. So she paints a very, very horrific picture. She paints this existentialist crisis in the soul of the caged bird, that he wants to break free, that crisis of not being able to free, but wants to cherish freedom. And how does she do that? How does she do that? She does that by employing the song that only a caged bird can sing. A person who experiences the bonded state knows how it feels like, and that person sings with such passion. Will not be the case for a person who is free. I remember Shelley here. Mr. Shelley has said in his poem, The Skylark, our sweetest songs are those that tell us of the saddest thoughts. Of course, yes. When do we feel the most at our heart? When we suffer. When we know how it is to suffer, but not to give away to suffering. That's the spirit of a true woman or a true gentleman. So Maya Angelou, nonetheless, was one of them. So although the poem, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, has no definitive rhyme scheme. She has no rhyme scheme. But she does it very intelligently. She creates the illusion of rhyme. How does she do that? With a clever use of consonants. Now, the repetition of consonant sounds is known as consonance. And another figure of speech is employed, technique is employed by her, that is enjambment. Note down the spelling, E-N-J-A-M-B-M-E-N-T, enjambment. What does it mean? It means that one line is continued to the other line and other line, and maybe there is no full stop given. Why? Because it shows a continuing process. Now, if you get into the poem, you will see very well. Just see, but a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. Now she doesn't put a full stop. She goes on and on and on. She drags the line and she makes it into one stanza. And maybe sometimes she drags the first stanza to the second stanza. So this technique of writing a poem is known as enjambment. So this is what the background of the poet, a little background of the poem, the title of course, and also the techniques, the rhymes, the meter that he has followed in the poem. So this is what we have done till now. Now after doing that, let us get into the poem. So the first stanza says, the free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream to the current, extremely sorry, I'm repeating the stanza once more. The free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. So about visual images. She says the opening lines, of course, shows a free bird leaping on the back of the wind as if the wind is in its favor. Now, wind here means the times, the society, the people are all in the favor of the free bird. It has the freedom given to it. It experiences how it feels like to move out and about and glide freely through the air. It just hovers over a stream of wind and floats downwards to where the current of the stream ends and the wind is calm. So as if the free bird just floats and the wind is the instrument. It dips its wing in the sea of orange sunlight. So it gives a very, very beautiful visual imagery. And the bird is shown in the state of great ecstasy as well as tranquility. It has the freedom to move about wherever it deserves. It is so utterly free and without restraints that it dares to claim the sky. So everything is in its favor. So of course the sky is his. The whole firmament is one big home for the bird. So my dear friends, let us get into the second part of the video. Stay tuned.